Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Trade candidates on tap today. Before we get to my list of names that I could see Dallas trading away, I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Name a player or players you think Dallas could move on from this offseason. Pinned comment is a great spot to go get those player names in. We're going to bucket these in different groupings. The first batch are what I consider to be some of the top trade candidates for the Dallas Cowboys. Knowing the value might not be that high, we begin with Neville Gallimore, the now fourth-year defensive lineman out of Oklahoma, former third-round pick, has not lived up to, oh, by the way, the $2.74 million. You'll see the numbers on each player. That's how much the Cowboys would save with a pre-June 1st trade, a.k.a. a trade before, during, or just after the NFL draft to maximize your return to help you this year. Gallimore has shown flashes at points in his NFL career, but has not been the consistent disruptive force that I was hoping he would emerge as. The kind of sort of flashes in 2021, not consistent this year. There's been some buzz the Cowboys weren't in love with the shape Gallimore appeared in to begin this past offseason. That's why he was playing so much in the preseason, and now he's very much on the bubble. With that amount of savings, maybe he doesn't get traded. I think Dallas would shop him come draft if they take a DT somewhat early. You could also see a scenario where he gets cut before the regular season begins. Let's talk corners now. Kelvin Joseph. The issue here is you don't save very much money because you guaranteed a lot as a second-round pick. But that Kelvin Joseph, despite the raw talent that is there, could not get on the field down the stretch this year, despite cornerback number 2 being perhaps his team's most glaring need. The numbers don't look very good. When he gets beat bad. He has not been a consistent player, I think, with some of his work habits, and I think that's why it was such a quick pull for Kelvin Joseph this past season. And not to mention the off-the-field stuff that, although appears safe for now, who knows what happens this offseason. Then there's the other cornerback, Nahshon Wright, the third-round pick, who also couldn't get on the field in the stretch. Those two guys you were counting on to play big roles for you. And the end result was they got benched. And they were signing guys off the street to plug in there. Now, when Wright gets beat, it's normally not for a touchdown, but the numbers have not been very good, and it's kind of in a now or never status. In the event Dallas takes a cornerback, let's say round 1 or even round 2, well, from a numbers game, Deron Bland, Israel Mukuamu probably aren't going anywhere. Trayvon Diggs, good. CJ Goodwin on special teams. One of those guys could very much be in the trade block come day 3 of the NFL draft. Now, if you have to keep one of these guys, who is it? Type in KJ for Kelvin Joseph, NW for Nahshon Wright. Pick one of those corners to keep. The ad break comes here. Great time to go get those votes in, and the earlier pin company you want to trade away. Let me know in the comments section right now. Let's look at some of the bigger names here. How about Michael Gallup, the wide receiver? The problem you run into here, you only save about $5.8 million, and you'd be selling at the absolute lowest value point of Gallup. The last time, this past year for Gallup, he was a shell of himself. 74 targets, 39 catches. A really bad ratio, 424 yards. Gallup, the guy we saw in 2019 when the quarterback was healthy, when the receiver was healthy, which hasn't been the case since then, really. Either it's been Dak banged up or Gallup banged up. 1,000-yard guy. The last 2 years, not even 900 yards. That's a real red flag for Gallup. Good name to consider just because of the name brand that involves there. I don't know who wants him, though, because of the injury and because of the contract situation. So with that in mind, what would you do this year with Gallup? T for trade, K for keep. Cut's not really in the cards, but you could at least explore it this upcoming offseason of a trade. I don't know if the value and timing is quite right, so let me know. I say keep for now. Next year, different conversation. Let me know. T for trade, K for keep. How about Dorance Armstrong? Now, this one, there's some post-June 1st cuts, which we did the cut candidates there, so some overlap on some of these names as well, by the way. Dorance Armstrong, $4.25 million in savings. Worth mentioning, he was awesome to begin the year. The first 11 games of the campaign for Dorance Armstrong, 8 sacks, 7 TFLs. He was playing awesome football in that time frame. The problem is that the final 8 games, and injuries were a part of this, by the way, he kind of suddenly disappeared. He wasn't nearly as impactful from that standpoint. Half a sack, 2 TFLs. So a pretty massive drop-off there from what Dorrance Armstrong was doing at the beginning of the year to where things cooled off down the stretch, only a half sack there. Get the first half, he's valuable. Maybe you try to sell him on a somewhat high note, though. Next up is Jordan Lewis. Again, bigger name, injury concerns here. He got hurt this season, did not play that much, a prime cut candidate because of it, but quarterback play in general is not that great. And if you're going to ride with guys like Deron Bland, Mukwamu, and then, drafting somebody early, Lewis could be on the trade block there. Plenty of teams in the market for a solid nickel corner. The completion percentage I know is high. I wouldn't freak out too much about that. It's a nickel corner. Typically, those guys get a higher completion percentage, lower yards. It's some of the shorter stuff in the end. So 3 of the bigger names. Issues with pretty much every player on this list. There's no clear trade candidate like there was Amari Cooper this time last year. We're bringing back the BetUS jersey deal, folks. Offer only available until kickoff of the Super Bowl. Head over to BetUS, chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys125 for 125% deposit bonus. When you put down at least $100, you will get a 125% deposit bonus. Remember, for this deal only, though, you must place a bet on the Super Bowl. You'll then email us, jersey@chatsports.com. We'll ask for a wide variety of things. We'll need, your shipping information, your name, whatever jersey you want. There's a select few. There's some Dak, Micah Parsons in there, too. We'll give you the layout of what we have. These are the official Nike jerseys, by the way. Email us, jersey@chatsports.com, so we can get proof that you signed up at deposit with BetUS. New accounts only, by the way. And send us a screenshot of your first bet. Must be on the Super Bowl. Could be the game itself. Eagles are 1-point favorite. We're all cheering for the Chiefs. Go Mahomes. You can bet on the over, the under, or any of the multitude of prop bets that exist on BetUS. There are literally hundreds of prop bets right now, including one of my favorite ones to always bet with, which is the Gatorade color that gets dumped on the eventual winning coach. Lines have changed, by the way. Blue is plus 175, yellow/green is plus 200, orange is plus 250, red pink is plus 500, and clear, which I guess is just the water, or maybe it's the Arctic cherry, whatever, that is plus 700. So that's the Super Bowl prop bets. Again, limited time only on the BetUS jersey deal. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code Cowboys125. Email us, jersey@chatsports.com. I'll make sure that email, by the way, is in the comments and the description of today's video. All right, some more names here. We'll go a little bit faster on these because there's just not much value, I think. How about some of your recent draft picks that have not been what you were hoping for? Jalen Tolbert first up. And this would be really selling low, because if you try to trade a third-round pick less than a year after you took him, that's a blinking, flashing sign of he's not good. You actually don't want him. I was disappointed, like every single person was watching was, of Tolbert this year. 2 catches, 12 yards. The biggest play made was lining up offside somehow, which was just absolutely brutal. I'm not going to dump him quite yet because that's an early dumping. You're not going to get good value back. I would ride with him for one more year and hope, but don't assume he's going to take a step forward. You still need more help at the wide receiver spot. So after 1 year, I think it's too early, but this is a democracy. You guys can vote. Is Jalen Tolbert already a bust? Y for yes and for no in the comments section. Let's move now to Jabril Cox. Again, savings on the right side there, so not much for Tolbert. It might be the end of the hashtag Cox Out campaign. They always take things too literally. Fatties only. Dontari Poe literally was too fat. Jabril Cox, Cox out. The Cowboys just didn't play him. He was out for almost every game. I am not sure what the future holds for Jabril Cox. If you bring back Leighton Vander Esch, he and Damone Clark appear to be your next 2 bets. They drafted Devin Harper, who was at times, after he got hurt kind of down the stretch in a injury, quote-unquote, wasn't playing that much, but he had some active reps over Jabril Cox. So I have concerns about his future. I liked him not coming out of LSU. At minimum, this is a make-or-break training camp for Jabril Cox, but given where he was drafted, there could be some value, but that's an under-the-radar name. I'm not advocating it, but it's a name you have to consider. All right, Josh Ball is next up here. I will give him away for a 7th-round pick in RP. I don't think Josh Ball is that good. I really don't. Now, the Cowboys got a fair scalping with Tyron Smith and Jason Peters, but they have options along this offensive line. Matt Waletzko, I think, had surpassed Josh Ball before he got hurt with his shoulder issue. He'll be back next year. Avion Collins, when the Cowboys in the playoff game went to that extra lineman package, it was Collins, not Josh Ball, who was out there. I view that as a sign that Collins, a practice squatter for most of the year, had already surpassed Josh Ball on the depth chart. So I think Josh Ball is firmly on the roster this year. 4th-round pick, offensive line, hasn't played much to show that he's maybe not that great. Maybe a team would take a flyer on him for a late day 3 pick. In the event the Cowboys make a trade, we will break it down. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Free videos every single day right here on the Cowboys Report. Another wide receiver, Simi Fehoko, kind of in a similar boat or similar group as Tolbert of receiver, draft pick, limited impact. He got hurt as a slight asterisk on that. They kind of tried to stash him a little bit. 3 catches, 24 yards. I forgot he had that many, frankly. He did outperform Tolbert. Some more savings there. Again, firmly on that roster bubble. Because of the investment in Tolbert versus Fehoko, if it came down to one of those 2 players, I would bet my money on Tolbert sticking around. Maybe it's like the Niners, who, like Fehoko coming out, could offer, a late day 3 pick. Same boat for Quinton Bohanna. Day 3 pick, defensive tackle, has played a decent amount for the Cowboys. I think if Dallas could do it over, they would keep John Ridgeway and move on from Bohanna. 27 career games. Hankins immediately was way better as a defensive tackle, and Bohanna still plays a bit too high in his pad level and gets pushed off the ball a little bit too much. I think if you draft a defensive tackle early, that could be a prime candidate for the Cowboys to shop during the NFL draft. One more group to come, but how many players will the Cowboys trade this offseason, if any? They're normally good for at least 1 trade, maybe 2, sometimes around the draft, but let me know your predictions. How many players will the Cowboys end up trading, if any? Before we go, some names that I don't think are going to happen. Ezekiel Elliott, you'd save $4.86 million with a pre-June 1st trade. The big reason why it does not happen, nobody wants that contract. Ezekiel Elliott, at his $10 million salary, is a net negative. There is not interest in adding Elliott at that cost. No NFL team, not even Bill O'Brien, if he still ran the Texans, would have interest in adding Ezekiel Elliott right now. No one's trading for him. So he's a cut or a restructure candidate. Next up is Tyron Smith, the offensive tackle. $9.6 million there. There's been buzz in the past that Tyron Smith, if he got traded, would rather just retire. There's just not interest from that standpoint in Tyron Smith playing for a new NFL team. And given his age, his contract, I would say retirement, cut, a new contract, a restructure in some capacity, all way more likely than a trade. I'm not sure he wants to play anywhere else, and if he even wants to play, period. Finally, quarterback Dak Prescott. If you trade Dak right now, you lose almost $9 million in his compared to his current almost $50 million cap hit. So it makes 0 sense if you're trying to win games right now, which I am, to trade Dak Prescott away. Doesn't make financial sense, and frankly, whatever quarterback you're getting, you're hoping would play at the top 10-ish level that Dak has, and that's a pretty dangerous gamble. I would just restructure him, draft someone on day 3 if you want, and then reevaluate next year. A trade right now, I don't think is a good idea for the Dallas Cowboys.